And that jarring cacophony tells you you're back with the Power of Three podcast. And today we're taking a look at another publication from the Black Archive from Obverse Books through in Edinburgh. I'm Kenny Smith, and today we're continuing our regular updates on these fantastic in-depth publications from Obverse. What are Obverse Books? Some of you may be asking. Well, they were founded in 2008 by Stuart Douglas, after a discussion online about the lack of new voices in Doctor Who fiction. Beginning with a hardback anthology of Iris Wildtime stories, co-edited by Stuart and Paul Mars, who is of course the creator of Iris Wildtime, who appeared in the BBC Books Doctor Who series, and of course later Big Finish. Obverse has gone on to publish novels, photo books, short story anthologies and memoirs, as well as of course the award-winning Black Archive, a series of monographs, each of which looks at an individual Doctor Who story. There's also the Silver Archive, which examines other genre shows in similar detail. The latest release looks at the Web Planet, and it's been written by Brigid Cherry. So, let's take a look at what the cover blurb tells us. Well, that is remarkable. Gracious, during all my travels, I don't think I've ever come across this. Magical. Isn't it extraordinary? My boy, probably. Without a doubt. And despite being a bold experiment that didn't always quite work, The Web Planet is a remarkable, magical, and extraordinary Doctor Who story. This book contextualises the serial historically and culturally as a product of early 1960s experimental television. It examines the ways in which it utilised the audiovisual technologies of its time, how it incorporated different aspects of performance practice, such as puppetry and physical theatre, and how it encoded the socio-cultural concerns of its cultural moment. So that's the teaser, that's on the back cover. If you have a look in the front cover of it, there's the usual cover format with the top 2/3 given over to a strange design, and at the bottom there is the band which tells you what you're looking at, and there's a picture of a Menoptera with its wings fully extended. The top half has got red, yellow and black swirls, sort of reflecting the carcinome, and if you look closely, the black and white bits are in fact a Menoptera with its arms raised. It's very cleverly done, so well done, the Black Archive. So, without further ado, let's hear from the writer.
I'm Brigid Cherry. Primarily, I have been a researcher, lecturer in film and popular culture, mostly studying fan cultures in the areas of science fiction and horror. So, professionally, I'm known in academic circles for my research into female horror fandom. Most primarily, I think, are Gothic studies, but also having an interest in Doctor Who personally. Of late, I've written quite a few pieces on Doctor Who fans and their responses to the new series. Edited a book on responses to the Jodie Whittaker era, and quite a lot of other stuff over the years. I am, I suppose, a Doctor Who fan, maybe. I've been watching it since I was, well, that I can remember since about 5 or 6, but I started watching it when it was on. I was 6, I think, when it started in 63. So, long-term viewer, but I haven't really watched much of late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I recognise your name from fan circles in the 80s.
Oh, yes, I used to write quite a bit for fanzines.
Highlander in particular. So yes, that was just before I get into fandom. I didn't get involved with fandom until 1990, but yours was one of
No.
those names I knew, and obviously with Brian, Rob.
Well, with Brian, Rob, and Paul Coburn, I think
Yes,
we turned out quite a few odd little titles.
absolutely. I remember particularly in Celestial Toy Room, I just thought, hang on a minute, there's a Scottish few jokes going in here, like things being written by Pete R. Motors, and think that's a reference to Pete Road Motors and their awful adverts that used to be in Radio Clyde. So yes, these little
Yes, I
things.
don't know how that happened, but that was Andrew Beach's fault, I think, that he put Brian in charge of CT.
Oh well, let's move on from that and
Yeah.
and talk about this one. So, do you recall the first time you saw the Web Planet? Because I know that first time I saw it was a dreadful Wobble Vision copy at the Glasgow Doctor Who group in the Woodside Library around 1990.
Well, my memories of it are when it was first transmitted.
Wow.
I don't have sort of total recall of the whole story or anything, but I can remember being immensely fascinated by the creatures. I can remember going into a Woolworths in New Cross and finding that they had Zarbi and Menoptera badges for sale.
What every girl needs at that age.
And I also, the scene that I have the strongest memory of is Ian and his school tie and how he nearly drinks from the acid pool. So I've got these kind of snippets of memory really of that, but I just loved it, I think, as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, these things all imprint on us. I mean, for me, it's Scaroth's eye and things like that when the mask comes off and that kind of thing. We all have, and even the Taran Wood Beast. And
oh, yes.
these things all stick with us. So this Black Archive, what was it that led you to want to do this one?
Well, it was Brian suggested that I put a proposal in. Actually, it wasn't something I'd really planned to do, but I was retired or semi-retired by that point from academia. And so I wasn't doing quite as much academic research as I'd done previously, because he did the Earthshock one. And he sort of just gave me a nudge and said, why don't you put in a proposal? And so it was thinking about which stories to do. I think at that point a lot had been done. So it was just thinking about what would be the most interesting one to write about from the perspective of a production angle more than anything else. And having taught media studies in a degree that also did some video production work, obviously things like production aesthetics and the logistics of making programs was quite of an interest from a teaching perspective. And that just led to thinking about, well, the Web Planet is perhaps one of the most intriguing episodes of the early years of Doctor Who in the first couple of years, because it was where they were really pushing the boundaries of not just what science fiction could do on television, but what television itself could do in a wider context. So it was sort of even out with the particular context of Doctor Who and the particular context of science fiction. It was how television was developing at that time and how it was being influenced by other trends in the arts and popular culture at that time.
The thing that I was very amused by, the line that you've got there right at the start of your introduction, when it's the Doctor saying, it's old, so old, look at the state it's in, because that's the quote that my friend Mark and I, that stuck with us the last time we watched it, and we thought, yeah. But of course, when we're watching it on like a 64-inch flat screen TV, never the way this was intended to be digested. And I think that's something that so often people forget when they say, oh, it's creaky, it's falling apart. But no, when you're watching it on the small screen, these are the things you don't notice.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the things I pull out in the book, actually. And I did do a little bit of research into what fans at various points have said about the episodes. And I think what struck me in one of the discussions that I read, and this was on the Rhubarb's Doctor Who forum, I think, that watching it episodically as well as watching it on the small screen was important. Trying to watch the whole of it in one go wouldn't give you a feel for what the viewers of the time were experiencing it as. Because that's one thing I can remember very strongly about those early years of Doctor Who was the episodic quality and wanting to wait, for the Saturday to see what was going to happen in the next episodes. Whereas now we just binge on anything. And so you can have too much of something, I think, and that's a problem to how we see it, as well as obviously, of course, the small screen and the context of the living room and where television sat in the domestic space and how people watched is important too.
Yeah, because that's something that seems to be so often forgotten when we are watching today, that these were made as weekly slots to be consumed, seen once, and that was it, move on to the next episode. And the memories would stick in the brain, or have, if you're lucky, get a novelisation from Frederick Muller, as was.
I mean, I think that's really, really crucial. I think, this is a bit of an aside, but I think that's what the new series has lost in some respects, is that although they've tried story arcs and things, that there's a loss there. They're great. Yes, a lot of those reformatted Doctor Who's since 2000s are great, but I think they've also lost something in that move towards a more cinematic and contained format. So that idea of it brings a lot of emotion in watching weekly. I mean, I can remember as a kid, and I think my brother and I probably sort of talked about this or sort of complained about it at the time, was that you got a boring story that you didn't want to watch, and they were always the historical ones. So you wanted them out of the way and get back to the next alien planet and get some of the more exciting monsters and aliens in.
That's fascinating to hear that, because that's for fans of my generation, hearing that's what we were always told, that people just wanted more sci-fi, more monsters and fewer historical. So that's fascinating. I'm so jealous you've seen things like the Myth Makers and all these gems. If only there was some way to extract them from your mind and restore them.
Oh, I know. It's impossible though, because I think with memory being so episodic, some stuff gets quite mixed up. So you never know what you get if you try to extract the stories. But yeah, if we could go back and record those experiences in full, I think it would be really interesting.
Very much so. So let's move on to the first section of the book, which is Every Corner of Vortis and Televisuality. So could you explain a bit about what your thinking was with here, and anything that maybe perhaps stood out for you when you were writing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that televisuality is an interesting area of aesthetics that hasn't always been wholly taken on board. I mean, I'm talking more academically, but maybe within fandom as well, that it's about the creation of a visual surface. And obviously that's really important within science fiction, especially if you're going to alien worlds and other worlds and other places, that how do you create those visual surfaces that capture alien qualities, particularly with the limited resources that the BBC had at the time they were making it. So I think it ties in very much with the evolution of television, that it was very much a theatrical medium early on. Obviously by the early 60s and certainly by the mid 60s that was changing, with more location work and more filmic qualities coming in. But the limitations of the technology at that time meant that they had to draw on so many different resources in order to create the sense of an alien world, not just the picture of an alien world, but that those pictures create qualities about what the world is like. And I think that, the opening shots where it's obviously a painted backdrop, but it's telling you, and it's telling you a whole landscape rocky outcrops and the flaring of the light and the moons in the sky. I mean, really, that's an incredible achievement when you think of the limitations of the technology and particularly the cameras at that time. It's getting movement and flow and movement across the landscape of Vortis and around the place that they're in, which is so alien. So I think that was what attracted me to that aspect of the story quite a lot.
Yeah. I've always felt there was almost a degree of something like out of the unknown about it, and the fact that you would have completely alien setup, alien characters and things going on, and it just so happens that in this case Doctor Who and his friends have arrived in it. But there's that sort of, as you say, that experimental nature, the look of it, the design of it, and from what we've seen from surviving telesnaps and surviving episodes of Out of the Unknown, if you're taking the TARDIS element out, it could almost have worked in that sort of format as well.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's off topic of the Web Planet, but one of the earlier memories I have of Doctor Who is the Vaga plants. And I grew up and became an adult not knowing that that episode was a Doctor Who episode, or not remembering that it was a Doctor Who episode. I thought it was some great science fiction program I'd seen on the TV about these horrible alien things that spiked you and you turned into one of them. It was only when I started going to a Doctor Who group that someone said, "Oh, that's Doctor Who." And I'm thinking, okay, that's Doctor Who. I need to look into that a bit more. So I think, yes, there is a lot that connects those early production values and televisuality with other early science fiction. Yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah, it's just that we're still somewhere out of the world of theatre. It's definitely not film, but it's somewhere in between. It's sort of that, the heightened reality of the theatre with trying to get the visuals of the cinema.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the important things I was trying to emphasise in the book. I mean, obviously, I didn't play up too much because it's a book about Doctor Who, in a series about Doctor Who. But it was that idea that episodes like that of Doctor Who can be seen in the context of other aspects of the arts and the media and entertainment, that they're not only Doctor Who, that's important, yes, but they're also prime examples of the qualities and developments in TV, and they fit into other categories as well.
And of course, as part of the fitting in with the televisuality of it all, you mentioned in building this alien world, mentioning, of course, that beautifully strange score, just that incidental score is just everything about it has been so well thought through by Richard Martin to make sure that everything about it is otherworldly.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the music. Music and sound effects always make something and make it more convincing. It doesn't matter whether it's old TV or modern cinema. Without the qualities of sound, you often can't evoke both the space, the spatial environments that you're in, and the emotional responses as well. And I think that the particular choices and the musique concrète give it such an alien quality that for me, a lot of the shonkiness of sets, as people call them, are just forgivable. You don't have to notice those things if you don't want to notice them, because the music is supporting what they're trying to do visually.
Yes, very much so. Now, touched on briefly there on sort of mentioning there the theatricality of it there. The next section is flying above thought, performance, and these performances have to be watched because obviously we have a young Martin Jarvis in there who still remembers the part very fondly. I interviewed him a few years ago when he was at the Boswell Book Festival in Dumfries House in Ayrshire. And of course, I bring up Doctor Who because that's what I do as part of it. But he remembered it so fondly, and that was great to hear. But it's just everybody's trying to create these alien races, and they've got obviously Bill Strutton's script has got some notes, but just finding the right voices and everything like that, it's all been very carefully thought through once again.
Yes, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to talk about the costumes as well as the actual performances, because you think about the jobs that these actors were doing, the performances that they were doing, um, are very much integrated with the costumes. Um, Now, obviously, they're quite quickly made. They had to be quite quickly made for the Menoptera, as the schedules dictated at that time. And they might not have been the greatest creation of butterflies or moths, but think about what they could do when they open the wings and the wire work and the flying sequences. The costumes are important and significant in that. And I think that one of the things, obviously, I think the biggest thing, of course, is the mime, the physical theatre of the acting. And I honestly, truly believe that Rosalind de Winter is the star of that serial. Absolutely.
Have you ever seen those T-shirts at conventions with insect movements by Rosalind de Winter that
Yeah,
people actually have? I mean, it's probably the show's most bizarre credit, but absolutely agreed.
yeah.
She really helped sell it.
Yeah, and I mean, Martin Jarvis himself has talked about how, she put the actors through their paces to teach them the mime performances, and I think that's a really significant input into the production, as well as her own performance, of course, in the serial. But the way that she coached the other Menoptera actors to make such convincing performances that they weren't quite human,
Yeah,
even though you could see that they're humans in those suits. But honestly, I think that makes the story.
I think there's so many little touches there. The fact that she'll refer to Ian as Heron, and
Yeah.
it's just sort of like getting names wrong because they're so alien to them. and
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
Barbara's
Yes.
and it's very very clever, just like working on the physical performance, the fact that, as you say, the costume, but also the linguistics. And I think that's something that's often forgotten about when you're creating an
It is.
alien.
It is, and the integration with props as well. The crystalline communication device when she's opening it to talk with the Menoptera fleet waiting above the planet.
Of course, having touched on the Menoptera, there are, of course, the Optera, and they're hopping along, again, part of that
Mm.
insect movement, and slightly more gruff, stilted voices. Again, being just sort of being less evolved, and again, very clever, like caterpillars to the butterflies.
It was a bit more impromptu, I think, the Optera, from all accounts of how they were inserted later on into the script. But I think they provide such a strong contrast. They're very gruff and masculine and dark, and they're not evil. Those qualities are sometimes used to depict evil characters, but I think it makes them very, very different. So that they really stand out in contrast to the Menoptera. And I love the scene right at the end where they're coming out into the light and they're hopping around and learning what they really are and where they are.
Yeah, and of course, one of them sacrifices themselves and to stop the acid coming through.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Again, it just shows alien sacrifice, and you do feel sad because they've made that kind of impression. But of course, the real stars of the show are probably the Zarbi, aren't they? Even when they do run into the
They
camera,
have to
there's
be.
something very enjoyable about them. Just that brutish, which I think again, it's the contrast, isn't it, between you've got these cultured Meroptera, and here you just have the brutish, mindless Zarbi.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a great choice as well because when you think about the insect kingdoms, you do think butterflies are beautiful, lightweight, airy creatures, um, whereas ants are more like a hive mind, a colony, and that they don't. They don't have these so much qualities. I mean, there's something aesthetically pleasing about ants, and I think the way they created those carapaces for the performers to wear really does convince you that they're giant ants. You know, with that suspension of disbelief, especially when you're a child. I think they look really convincing. They don't always move convincingly, and the human legs sticking out the bottoms are a bit funny, even for kids, I think. But that's part of the fun of it, really, isn't it? That you can see both at the same time. You can see the performance and the performers in there, but you're also looking at what are real living creatures. And that's the joy of puppets and puppetry. And that really brings it out, I think, those Zarbi. Especially Zombo, of course, who,
Oh,
I mean, you can't help but have a soft spot for Zombo because Vicky does. She carries me along with that.
Zombo should have got his own spin-off. Or
Oh, I
her.
know. Well, it could be a her, yeah. I don't know. It's like, I mean, bees, they're all male, aren't they?
Yeah.
Worker bees. I'm not an insectologist, so I can't answer that exactly, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the next section, the light is good, and the themes that are in the story. So what did you feel were the strongest ones that came out to you?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know that any of the themes were stronger than the others. I think that's, again, quite episodic, that some episodes focus more on the sort of the aspects of war, especially the Second World War and the Holocaust and work camps, you know, prisoners of war, and those aspects come out quite strongly in episodes where the Crater of Needles is the focus. But then later on, I think you do get a transition to where the different aspects of science and the isotope and the disease are coming out. So I think it's hard to say which one is maybe the strongest because it evolves across the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, there's mind control and things like that, which obviously was a big thing in the 60s. And I think that's, you know, it's used in quite a subtle way. It's not in your face. It's not main thrust, but just sort of being dehumanized when those collars go on, or de-time lordized when those collars
Yeah.
go on them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it links again back to the puppetry with the control collar on. They're becoming like puppets themselves. You know, when it's put on the Doctor or Vicky or Barbara, they're becoming puppet-like. I mean, we were talking about mime earlier, but Barbara's performing in that way when she's drawn out of the TARDIS because she's wearing the gold bracelet that she got in the Romans. That she talks to Vicky about it, how something strange is happening to her, that her arms moving of its own accord, which suggests again the puppetry. I think, I mean, on a personal level for me, and this was because I think later on I got more involved, you know, thought more about the whole ecological movement and Silent Spring. And I didn't read Silent Spring until a bit later when I was in my early teens, I think, if I remember correctly. But I think with hindsight, that's the thing that I feel most strongly about, is the aspects of ecology and the destruction of the whole planet that you're seeing there, this web growing over it. And of course, you know, the climate is still such a key issue in, you know, we've not, since the 60s when we were warned about it, humanity hasn't done enough or what it should have done early on for whatever reason. But I think that is now, for me, watching the story again, it's that aspect of how you can pollute the world and destroy it effectively.
But we do get that little bit of hope at the end, as the world is without the carcinome there, things do start to improve. And
and the water re-emerges.
So there's always hope, and it's an upbeat ending. Not only is the carcinome been defeated, but there's a chance for shrubbery to return and the like. So
yes, yeah.
Lovely. And then, of course, in your conclusion, you are reappraising the web planet. So having examined it so thoroughly, how would you say you viewed it at the start, and then How would you say you looked at it at the end? Did anything change in a major way for you?
Yes, I think it did. I mean, I think that the actual writing of the book made me appreciate a lot more how TV then was brought together, how innovation could be so important to something. I mean, yeah, I think we're more used to the pace of change and the way, especially with computing technologies dictating now how most science fiction films appear and presented. I think that there's more of a clarity involved in the Web Planet with that technology they had at the time. It was a lot stronger in its presentation and creation of alien beings and alien species, not just through the effects work or the set design or anything else, performances, but just through the coming together of all those aspects and how the production team at that time could take chances in bringing in avant-garde, which was at the fore at the time. I think it made me appreciate the avant-garde in television much more widely, having written the book. Yeah.
I think it's definitely, it's one that every time I watch it, I get something new from it, which there's not many stories you can say that offer that at times, but this is definitely one. It's multi-layered, and I say there's plenty of themes in here that you investigate and discuss that perhaps people may not have thought of before. For example, the Holocaust aspect was one that hadn't previously leapt out at me, and having read that, of course, it just is.
Yes,
it's there.
I hope so. I mean, that was one of the aims of the book, really, was to, you get these discourses in fandom, and one of them has always been that the Web Planet's not a very good story or episodes. I'd like those people to have a read and think a bit more, even if not to like the Web Planet, to at least appreciate the work that it stands behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, one final thought. When I was driving back from my doctor's appointment earlier, just before this call, I was thinking, Bill Strutton. What a really Australian-sounding name that is.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And of course, Rosalind de Winters is Australian as well, so there's quite a input into the production of that.
With the inspiration for the Zarbi, with the bull ants and everything else. So,
yes, yeah.
Brigid, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss the book, and thoroughly recommend that anybody who's got an interest in it goes out and buys it now.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
There we go. Wasn't that fascinating? So, now you want to know how to get a copy? Well, you can go to the Obverse Books website and you can find it on there, just by entering the Web Planet into the search part. But if you want to go directly, it's www.obverse.co.uk/product/83-the-web-planet and / again. It's 143 pages and it's priced $4.99 for a digital copy and $5.99 in paperback. And this was published back in June, and the only reason we haven't done it before now is because I was on holiday. There are still 2 more scheduled Black Archives to come this year. This month, August, features The Invasion by Steve Hatcher, and then in October, it's Frontios from Paul Driscoll, which is quite a nice way to come on the end of season 21, which of course was out on Blu-ray earlier this year. And don't forget, you can find Obverse on social media to keep up to date with all their releases. Talking of social media, we have our own. We are at Power of 3 Pod with a number 3 on Twitter. We are at Finished Zine on Blue Sky, and we have a Facebook group as well. So feel free to like and comment in there. So we're going to play out, as we always do, with a tune. And this one seems appropriate because this is music that features in the Web Planet. We're now going to listen to Les Structures Sonores and Rhapsody de Budapest. And I'm pretty sure you're going to recognise this bit. Until next time, I've been Kenny Smith. See you again. Bye-bye.